Lisa, how did you become involved in ventriloquism? What was your interest, and when did you get started?
That's an interesting story, too. It's all my children's fault. My boys are a year apart, and when they were in sixth and seventh grade, they became interested in being part of a puppet team, which our local church had. And my husband and I, they're both very theatrical kids, and they still are. They're both still in theater work. And so my husband and I thought, great, whatever, let them try whatever they want. And they loved it and had a great time. We were very happy to bring them to practice and pick them up when they were done. And then the director quit. And my husband and I were approached to take over. And since it was something that our boys loved, we thought it would give us a chance to do something together as a family. And so for years, it was mainly the four of us and a few extra people that did this, that worked on this puppet team. And then it was during that time period that I went back to work as a teacher. I'd been a teacher before our kids were born. I stayed home when they were growing up and just did substitute teaching. But then I took a job when they got older. And during the years working on that puppet team, I realized how magical puppets were. And even though you'd think that an elementary school teacher would have used puppets in her day, no, puppets scared me. And I was happy to let them be in a box for the kids to play with, but I didn't want to touch them. But during those years then working on the puppet team, I became convinced that they were a magical force that needed to be in my classroom. And I really didn't know what to do as far as bringing them into my classroom other than learning to be a ventriloquist. So at the age of 44, I started taking classes. I started with the Mayor ventriloquism course. And then I took classes through, it was then called One Way Street Creative Ministry Solutions. And I went through the ventriloquist in training program with them. And I did take private training with Mark Wade and with Stephen Knowles and Ken Groves.
Okay.
And so that is sort of where I got my training, all along intending to use it in my classroom. I never intended to quit teaching. I loved teaching. And as I started, people heard that I was using puppets in my classroom and that I was a ventriloquist. Well, then the question was, do you do programs? I said, no. And then someone said, well, would you do a program? And my husband always wrote all the scripts that we did on our puppet team. So I said to him, please help me. I've been asked to do this program. I don't know where to start. So he helped me put a program together, and I performed it thinking that would be the last time. And that's not what happened. Word started getting out, and then a fellow teacher that I worked with knew a librarian in a nearby town.
Sorry about that.
And she said, would you consider doing a library show? I know my friend would love to have you come to her library. So I did my first library show, and the librarian came up to me afterwards and said, Lisa, you have got to do this more. I'm going to tell everyone I know about you. And so then for 2 years after that, I tried to teach. And then on the weekends and in the evenings, I would do some shows. And finally, my husband came to me and said, Lisa, please choose one job. And he said, and I think someone else can teach your class. but you're the only one in this area doing what you do with your puppets. And I think you need to quit teaching. So, with great distress in my heart, I resigned my teaching job and stepped out on a limb to do this. And yeah, it's grown way beyond my wildest dreams. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I get the best of both worlds because I'm still teaching. And now when I go back to libraries and schools and places where I've been before, I still get kids coming up, running up to me and hugging me. Or if I'm in the grocery store, I'll hear these little voices, that's the puppet lady. So some of those perks that you had as a teacher, I still get. And that's sort of fun.